Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to Palante's Zoom Thursdays. My name is Jakari Green. I'm the Director of Strategic Marketing at Palante Harlem. And tonight's webinar is titled Your Rights After an Apartment Fire and What Happens When You Are Displaced. We thought this webinar would be great to have because it would give great insight on a topic that's not really talked about. When you hear about buildings taking fire, we only usually see the headlines and the tragedy, and not many are aware of the process of what happens after. And we want everyone to be prepared in case the situation happens to you or someone you may know. And that being said, we're joined by New York State Senator Robert Jackson. We're also joined by Savon McGinley from the Red Cross, William Martinez from FDNY, and Abigail Banks from NYC Emergency Management. And we thank them for being here with us tonight. So I'm gonna first have the senator start with the introduction so he can introduce himself to everyone. So Senator Robert Jackson, you can start.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And this is a very, very important evening. And as you see, the title of the presentation is Your Rights After an Apartment Fire. What happens when you're displaced? So I am State Senator Robert Jackson, and I'm proudly serving the 31st Senatorial District, which encompasses Washington Heights, Inwood, Marble Hill, and parts of the Northwest Bronx. Tonight, I join you as your co-host for this vital webinar organized by Palante Harlem. And we're here to discuss a topic that many of us hope never encounter: what to do in the aftermath of a residential building fire and how to preserve our rights. Tragically, many in our community have found themselves grappling with the aftermath of such incidents, stemming from various causes like landlord negligence, absentee neighbors, or stove fires. In the immediate aftermath of a fire, there are essential actions to take to protect the residents, assess the damage, and begin the recovery process, all while ensuring our legal rights are upheld. We will explore these critical post-fire steps today, highlighting the responsibilities of landlords, tenants, and key agencies and partners. So we thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope that this will go over very well, knowing how important it is to react when there is a fire in our homes or in our communities. And with that, I would just like to go on to the presentation. Is that all right with you?
Yes, so we're gonna start.
Okay. So your rights after an apartment fire, what happens when you're displaced? The Red Cross does an immediate assessment of your needs, such as food, clothing, medicine, etc. If your home is not safe to return to, Red Cross can provide housing assistance for 24 to 48 hours in a hotel. After this period, the Red Cross can assist with referrals to HPD, Housing Preservation and Development, and HRA, Human Resource Administration. In essence, these are city agencies that would be involved in helping all of us make the appropriate referrals. After a building fire, FDNY, the fire department, will come back to do an inspection of the scene of the fire and any other impacted units to determine the cause of the fire. Typically, your landlord may not proceed with repairs until FDNY completes this inspection. The Department of Buildings, known as DOB, will come to assess the structural integrity of the building. Is it safe to come back and things like that? And any potentially issues as an issue, a vacate order if necessary, if the premises are not safe to come back. And a vacate order means that your unit is not safe to live in. It is not an eviction notice or order. It means that you will not owe any rent to your landlord while the vacate order is in effect. HPD will do an inspection of your unit to determine if it is habitable, meaning to go back to live, and will also potentially issue a vacate order if necessary. HPD, Emergencies Housing Services, EHS, the unit provides emergency relocation services and rehousing assistance to households who have been displaced from their homes as a result of fires or city-issued vacate orders. Owners of residential buildings must provide the names and apartment numbers of all legal tenants and occupancy to the Emergency Housing Services, EHS, in the event of a building-wide emergency, such as a fire or vacate order. Owners must be responsible for HPD shelter expenses that result from residential displacement due to fires or city-issued vacate orders. And what should the landlord be doing? A question. After the fire has been extinguished, the building management should send workers the same day to board up any broken windows, holes in the roof, or other access points. Your landlord has their own insurance policy, and that insurer will likely come to do an inspection to determine liability for the landlord and any next steps. Your building management will hire vendors, likely paid for by their insurance company, to do cleanup, remediation, and rebuilding of the building and your unit. Testing should be done by their cleanup company for asbestos. So if you are concerned about the company's thoroughness, meaning did they do a good job in cleaning it up, you can also call 311 and request that a Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, inspector come to take samples for testing. This will immediately pause all cleanup efforts taking place, but will create a guarantee that the affected area will be sufficiently remediated for asbestos. Your landlord will hire a construction company to rebuild any damage in your unit. They will submit applications for permits to the Department of Buildings, and once those permits have been approved, work will begin. So what should tenants be doing? You should be confirmed with your insurance company if you need to provide any additional written notice as described in your policy in order to access your coverage and loss of use benefits. Call your gas company and your electricity provider to suspend the services. Now, some people say, well, wait a minute, I don't have any fire insurance or home insurance. Well, if you don't, then you have to then find out whether or not there's any other coverage by the building owners in reference to not only the building, but to you as a tenant. I tell you, I know I have apartment insurance just in case if there's a fire or anything like that. So let's be aware. The same as, before we go to the next one, the same as I have a fire extinguisher in my home, and every one of us should have one and know how to use it. So what should tenants be doing? Confirm with your, go back please. Confirm with your insurance if you need to provide any additional written notice as described in your policy in order to access your coverage and loss of use benefits. As I said, you call your gas and electric providers to suspend the services. Next one, please. And what else should the tenants be doing? In the coming days and weeks, workers and inspectors will need access to your home. Given that you may not be living nearby, this may be difficult to coordinate. Purchasing a lockbox for your door with a spare set of keys inside and a phone number to call for the code will be helpful in moving the work forward without having to be physically present. You can also request that the building management or their insurer, the insurance company, purchase or reimburse you for the lockbox. And I have no idea what it costs, but I would think that it is safe and we should find that out. I'm sure maybe the FDNY or the other representative may know what the normal cost of a lockbox is. Next one. The Division of Housing and Community Renewal, commonly called DHCR, or now HCR. If you are a rent stabilized or rent control, immediately alert your landlord and New York State of your potential intent to return to your apartment by filing a $1 order with DHCR. A what? $1? Yes, $1, which basically says, I think it's $1 per month. Once DHCR issues an order to reduce your rent, pay $1 to your landlord every month to preserve your rights to the unit. And so the units could be unavailable for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, depends on how much damage to the building and to roofs and things like that. But this will make sure that your rights are preserved. Okay, next one. HP action. And what is HP? Okay, if your landlord is not doing repairs after a fire or is not timely restoring possessions, you can file an HP. That's a housing. What does HP stand for? Housing. Help me out, somebody. Okay, you can file an HP action, housing protection action, in housing court to get a court order to address this issue. HP actions are designed to be tenant friendly. Can you do without an attorney? If the landlord does not comply with agreements made in court, there can be civil penalties as well as being held in contempt of court. So that's what you have to know, and that's what an HP action is. So we thank you for coming in and listening to me make the presentation on this PowerPoint. And now I'm going to turn it back to Zakari and present the other panelists.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So we're gonna now shift to the Red Cross with Saban because they are the ones who provide the emergency assistance right after the fire.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Senator and Jakari, for inviting us uh, to speak at this panel. It is really uh, important to review this and to help everyone in our community understand what support is available during this time and to help move forward and find the path to new normal. The Red Cross starts our support with our disaster action team, and they're there at the time of the fire. The disaster action team is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week volunteer-led program. They respond to disasters within all 5 boroughs. These teams go to the location of the fire or other local disasters and meet with the residents who've been impacted. The disaster action team, which is also known as DAT, will interview those impacted and support them with their immediate disaster cause needs. So the needs that the fire or unsafe living situation has identified or occurred. The team will support with providing access to resources for necessities, food, shelter, pet needs, spiritual care support, medication support, financial assistance when eligible. The support the disaster action team is based on, as we said, the disaster cause needs. All cases are done on a case by case basis, and the Red Cross does do a damage assessment after these events to help identify the best support to help families move forward. The support, as was mentioned by the senator, can include temporary housing to help families reset and move forward. After meeting with our disaster action team, the next team the Red Cross you'll be working with will be our recovery and disaster health, mental health, spiritual care, also known as individual client care team. And these teams help with the next steps. So the recovery casework team will follow up and provide referrals, information, and resources that can help you through the recovery process. These are, as mentioned earlier, referrals to city agencies, and also information that can help you personally, letters from missed days of work or school. Also, we help with information on how to obtain a fire report, and as discussed, that dollar rent, we have information on that as well that we help our clients to understand how that process works. Our disaster health services team is the team that will support our those who've been impacted, our community members who lost medication or medical supplies as a result of a fire. Our mental health and spiritual care support are licensed professionals that help those who need help with the emotional and stress response after these events. And that assistance is available to all of those impacted, not just the ones directly impacted by the fire, but even neighbors can be supported by our mental health and spiritual care teams. Thank you.
Very good. That's a lot of good information. All right.
Jakari, you're muted.
Hello? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We hear you now, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Savon, for that. I wanted to know, did you want to mention the smoke alarm, the free smoke alarm? Because I could put up the
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, you got that, William? If you've got it, go for it.
I'll do it. Hello, everyone. My name is Firefighter Martinez. Very happy to be here. There's a lot of good information, a lot of stuff that I didn't even know as far as the aftermath of the fires and stuff. But I'm here more so to talk about preventative measures as far as fires go, to hopefully prevent you from having to go through the aftermath of dealing with a fire, because I know that's a very taxing and a tough ordeal to go through. So here I'm going to talk a little bit about fire safety, go through some stuff that you may have known, may have forgotten, or just don't know, and hopefully you'll go home with something that you didn't know today. So as far as fire prevention, most fires that happen in the home happen in the kitchen, right? So as far as those fires goes, you have to be very careful, because a lot of people like to multitask when they're in the kitchen. They like to answer their phone, they like to go answer the door, go do something else, and they forget that they're cooking. And this is still one of the leading causes of fires today in the city. So a lot of good practice, or a practice that you may use at home, is actually keeping your oven mitt on if you leave the kitchen. If you leave the kitchen, you leave your oven mitt on, you won't forget that you're cooking. You look at your oven mitt, You remember to go back and cook. Another thing is to put a timer on your phone. A lot of people have technology in their pocket and they forget to use it. If you put a timer on your phone and you go off and do something, it'll alarm you and let you know that you have something on the oven, something cooking, right? Because you don't want to forget that. It's very important. Most fires that happen in the kitchen are grease fires, correct? And do we put water on grease fires? No, we definitely do not put water on grease fires, right, Senator?
That's right. You don't do that. That's why we have to learn how to go to fire drills like that. You know.
Exactly. You have to teach everyone. Is one thing for you to know, but you have to let everyone in the home know as well, right? So if you put water on a grease fire, what happens is it'll spread to everything else, everything around it, a curtain, towels, anything that's around it could potentially catch on fire. So a good practice is to actually, like we were talking about before, is have a fire extinguisher in the home, right? A lot of people don't have them. It's a good idea if you live in a multi-floor home to have one in each floor at least, even in the basement. It's a good idea to have a fire extinguisher, right? And they're fairly cheap. You could get them for like, I think $30 or 30 for 2 of them. I think there was a special in Home Depot or Lowe's. Amazon even sells them. But if you're gonna buy one, you want to make sure it has the 3 classifications, A, B, and C, right? There you go, very good. That's the perfect size too for the home, right? And you got to make sure it has the 3 classifications, A, B, and C. A is for paper and wood, B is for grease fires, and C is for electrical fires. Now you want to make sure it covers all types of fires, right? Do you have that there, Senator? All 3 classifications?
A, B, and C, right at the bottom.
There you go, perfect. Now you're covered for all types of fires. Any type of fire, you're ready to go, right? So it's always a good idea to have a fire extinguisher in the home. Most of them have a gauge. If the needle's in the green, that means it's pressurized. That means it's good to go. If the needle's in the red, that means that it's depressurized or it's lost pressure, right? How's that one looking? Good to go?
Good to
Awesome.
go.
As long as that needle's in the green, these extinguishers last a long time. They have like a 10-year lifespan, 10 to 12 years about, give or take, as long as that needle's in the green. But once it's lost pressure, it's time for a new one. There's ways to refill them, but that requires more money, more tools. You're better off just getting a new fire extinguisher. All right, but definitely a great idea to have those at home. If God forbid you don't have a fire extinguisher, you have some other options. If you have a kitchen fire, a grease fire, that is. One option is actually baking soda. If you have baking soda at home, you put that on a grease fire, it could put out a grease fire, right? Because a lot of people don't know what baking soda is basically the same contents of that's in a fire extinguisher. The only thing that the fire extinguisher is pressurized, right? So if you use baking soda, it could actually work. A lot of people think that using like cooking powder and stuff like that could work, but that takes a copious amount of powder and stuff like that, and it's better, you're better off using baking soda. And if you want to use in tandem, if you are cooking on a pan, make sure you have a lid that fits that pan, right? So because by you covering that fire, what you're doing there is killing the oxygen to the fire. When you remove the oxygen to the fire, you remove the fire, right? So you can use both of them in tandem, right? You could throw baking soda on the grease fire, and then you could put the lid on it and leave it there, and hopefully it'll put it out, right? But my personal opinion, if you're gonna try and put out a fire, you should at least call 911 and get the ball rolling. Let us be on our way just in case the fire gets out of hand, right? Because if it gets out of hand, you want us there already or at least on the way, right? And if we get there and you had put it out, great, you made our job easier, and we could go about our day, right? Better to be safe than sorry in those situations. All right, but even more importantly, if there is a grease fire or a kitchen fire, make sure you turn off the stove before you do anything. Try and turn off the stove, and then you could go about putting out the fire if you can. All right. Oh, also, one thing I forgot to mention is if you have children at home, right? They sell these stove covers, the knob covers, so they don't play with the stove knobs and potentially cause a fire. What a lot of people don't know is that if your property owner, your super, your landowner, landlord, if you have children 6 years old or younger, they're required to give you this free of charge if you ask for them, right? So if you ask your super or your property owner for these covers for the stove knobs, they're required to give them to you, right? A lot of people do not know that. And if you just wanted to buy them yourself, that's another option. You could get them on Amazon or anywhere else. They're pretty, they're not too expensive. All right. So another preventative measure, even more important, that everyone should have are smoke alarms, right? Smoke alarms / carbon monoxide alarms. They come out with both. The new ones that are out nowadays have built-in lithium ion batteries, and they last 10 years. You don't need to swap out the batteries anymore. They last 10 years, and you basically just have to check them every so often, every month, every couple months. Just make sure you push the button in the center, let it go through its cycle, and make sure that it's functioning. Now, these should be in the home. There should be one in the kitchen, or at least close to the exit to the kitchen, maybe in the hallway, and there should be smoke alarms in every bedroom, ideally, right? Whatever you feel that it might be the safest setup for your home, right? But the big thing is to make sure you have them. If you still have batteries where you're swapping out the batteries, I mean, alarms where you're swapping out the batteries, those are a little outdated. It's time to get a new one, the new lithium ion battery operated smoke alarm, right? And like I was gonna say before, the Red Cross and the FDNY have a program together in which we come to your homes and install these free of charge, right? Now these cost about $50 each, right? $40, $50. So why not let the city come? It's a great program to take advantage of. Let us come and install them free of charge, as many as you may need, right? So you basically call, you set up an appointment with us, and either us or the Red Cross will come and install them in your home. I can give you the number. I'll put the number on the chat at the end of the presentation so that you can call and make the appointment, right? So it's a great program. A lot of people are taking advantage of it. It's getting more popular as the days go. But definitely important to have a smoke alarm. The only buildings we don't install them are NYCHA buildings. If you live in a NYCHA building, they provide their own smoke alarms and NCO alarms. So at any other type of building, any other type of dwelling, even private dwellings, will come and install these free of charge. Also, for those who are hard of hearing, or anyone who's deaf or hearing impaired, we offer life tone alarms. Now, these life tone alarms are also something we offer if you ask for them. We'll come to your home, and the way these work is this piece goes on your bedstand, and this puck right here goes under your pillow. And if there's a smoke, if there's carbon monoxide, this will basically vibrate and alert you that there's a fire or an emergency condition in the home. So a lot of people don't know about this device, and that we offer it free of charge as well. So if you need them, also we do offer that for the homes. So even if you have friends or family that may need it, it's a good option. Let them know, and we'll be able to come and install them free of charge. Also, one of the other leading causes of fires in the city are electrical fires. I'm sure everyone have these at home. Power strips, extension cords. You have to be very careful with these at home, not to overload them. It's a good practice maybe to leave 1 or 2 of the plugs free so you don't overload the device or the extension cord. One thing we say, a rule we have, if it heats something up or cools something down, it needs to be connected directly into the wall, directly into the outlet, right? If you don't want to connect that onto an extension cord. So for instance, your refrigerators, your dryers, your stoves, curling irons, your space heaters, all that needs to be connected directly to the wall. If you connect that to an extension cord, you have the chance of causing a fire, because those require too much energy, and it could cause a short and cause a fire either behind the wall or overheat the plug and cause a fire inside the home. So definitely anything like that. This is more so for your TVs, charging your phones, laptops, your computers, stuff like that. And it's more so for temporary use, but you could use it for things like that in the home. But even more important is to make sure, if you're gonna buy these, that it has the UL mark. What that UL mark looks like is this, right? So what this stands for is Underwriters Laboratories. It's basically the company that safety tests and certifies these products, that make sure that they're safe and quality products to use in the home. They're basically safety tested, and you want to make sure that you look for this symbol, and this will be on everything as far as your batteries, your smoke alarms, your CO alarms. and your extension cords. If you look for it, you should find them. A lot of people tend to buy extension cords at a 99-cent store. They bring them home and they're defective and cause a fire, right? So you get what you pay for. You want to pay a little bit more to make sure you get a quality product at home, right? So this is the symbol you're looking for, so you don't forget. Underwriters Laboratories. Also, you never want to connect one extension cord to another extension cord. I can't tell you how many homes I've been where I see people do that, and it's a big no-no. It could cause a fire. I see people run this under the carpet across the room. If there's a short on this cable, this overheats. This could light your carpet on fire. It could cause a big disaster in the home. And I've seen it happen. And this could happen at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning while you're sleeping. So you want to be very careful as far as that goes. And be very careful with extension cords and plugging in your devices. Another electrical thing that causes fire is space heaters, right? Space heaters at home. It's still kind of chilly out. I'm sure people are still using space heaters. Some people use space heaters as a permanent source of heat in the home. And that's not something you should use. This is for temporary use only as well. This is for 2 hours, 3 hours at most. The new ones actually have timers on them, right? You have a timer, you set it, and it'll turn off on its own. Also, you want to look for the ones that have the safety button on the bottom. If you have this at home set up and for whatever reason it falls over, it'll automatically shut off. And you would have to pick it back up and turn it back on, right? So, and when you have these, you want to make sure you're in the room. You don't want to leave them on from one night to the next, one day to the next. Like I said, it's for temporary use, and you want to make sure there's 3 feet of space around the space heater, so it's not close to anything that could light on fire. The same is to be said about candles. If you have candles at home, you want to make sure you have space around them, 3 feet of space around them, and don't leave them on overnight. If you're leaving the room, please turn them off. Candles are still causing a lot of fires in the city. Definitely be careful as far as candles go. Another safer option is actually battery operated candles. You could buy these just as a safer option. They might not be as aesthetically pleasing, but they definitely are the safer option and can prevent fires. All right. Another important thing I'd like to talk about is actually the building that you live in, the type of building that you live in. A lot of people don't know that they live in either a fireproof or a non-fireproof building. Why that is important is because knowing your escape plan, it'll affect your escape plan as far as both situations go. In a non-fireproof building, obviously you want to get out as fast as possible. What that building is made up of, the contents of that building are very flammable, and you want to be able to get out as fast as possible. In a fireproof building, it differs a little bit because your apartment acts as basically a protection for you, a capsule for you, a fire-resistant capsule for you in case there's a fire in that building, right? So the way you could tell if you're in a fireproof building is if your building is in general 7 floors or above, it's a fireproof building. If it's 6 floors or below, it's generally a non-fireproof building. If you have fire escapes in your building, that's a non-fireproof building. Those are the type of buildings you need to escape as fast as possible. If you're in a fireproof building and the fire is not in your apartment, it's better to stay in your apartment, close the door, because the doors have a fire rating and they're fire resistant. Maybe put a wet towel on the floor so that smoke doesn't come in, crack a window, and wait for the fire department to get there and give you further instructions. Now, why that is because in those buildings, the smoke and the toxic smoke and the fire are going to be in the stairways. They're going to be in the elevator shafts. They're going to be in the hallways. So it's better off just close the door, and you're protected from the fire for a long time until we get there, right? In other buildings, non-fireproof buildings, the doors are made from wood, and the smoke is going to get in, and the fire is going to get in fairly quick. Right, a fire doubles in size in 30 seconds. So in fireproof buildings, it's better to stay inside your apartment and wait for us to get there. Now, if the fire is in your apartment, no matter what type of building you're in, your best bet is to get out. Right? If fire is in your apartment, no matter if it's fireproof or non-fireproof, your best bet is to get out. Go to a safe meeting place outside and call 911 and meet up with your loved ones if you live with anyone. Because The next thing is fire. In a fire in any type of building, we definitely do not take an elevator. Elevators are a no-no in a fire. You want to make sure you take the stairways. There's an evacuation stairway, and that's what you're gonna have to take in case of a fire. Never take the elevator, because the elevator chute's gonna act as a funnel for all the smoke, all the toxic smoke, and it's gonna go up the elevator chute. Also, if the power goes out and you're in the elevator, obviously that's going to be a bad situation. Now we have to rescue you from a stuck elevator and put out a fire at the same time. It's just going to make a bad situation worse. All right. And definitely have an escape plan. You know how all the schools have fire drills and stuff. It's very important to have some kind of fire drill at home, some type of escape plan. Because if at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, there's a fire, you don't want to get up and then have no idea what or how you're going to go about escaping, right? So everyone should know where the exits are, know how to open the windows, know where the fire escape is, make sure that none of the exits are blocked. And everyone, even if you have to designate somebody, because if there's a baby in the home, there should be someone responsible for that child to be able to take them out of the home. So these are things that need to be considered with a fire escape plan, because everyone's going to be different to their own home, right? The design of the home and the amount of family members in the home is going to be something that's going to dictate how you execute your fire escape plan. All right, so that's very definitely something important. Now, next thing I want to talk about is something that's causing a lot of fires in the city, or most of the fires as of late, are lithium-ion batteries on e-bikes. E-bikes, a lot of people have e-bikes, electrical scooters, and the reason that they're causing a lot of fires is misuse, right? People aren't using them correctly. They're not handling them correctly. They're buying defective batteries. They're using the incorrect chargers to charge these batteries. They're leaving them charged even after they're already charged. And the batteries overheat, and the cells in the battery start to explode, and the battery itself explodes and causes a fire that spreads very fast. I can't even explain to you how fast these fires engulf rooms and homes. So definitely lithium-ion batteries you have to be very careful with. Definitely look for the UL on them. If you have e-bikes, this UL should be on the battery itself, and that'll let you know that it's a certified battery and a safe battery to use. Because what a lot of people do with these e-bikes, they'll come home and they'll leave them in the entrance of the home, right? And if this battery blows up or catches fire, now what's the situation there? It blocks off the exit to your home, right? In case of an emergency. Because that's what a lot of people tend to do. They'll leave these e-bikes at their entrance of their home, they'll blow up, and now you're forced to use your secondary means of egress, if you have one, hopefully, right? Like a window or something. So definitely, if you see a foul smell or something deformed on the battery, just call 911. Let us come check it out. If it's something, there's something wrong with it, we'll remove it, and you could go about getting a new one, because you want to be on top of it. You want to catch it before it actually explodes or catches fire. And definitely keep it out of anywhere that's too cold or too hot, not anywhere directly in the sun. The issue with this is that there's not a lot of regulation in the city as far as e-bikes as of now. They're still trying to figure out what to do as far as e-bikes go, and electrical scooters, where to park them and where to keep them, because now it's basically up to the property owner or the super to say where, or even if they allow e-bikes in the building or not, or in the home. So it's definitely something to be careful with. And the last thing I want to touch on is still the third leading cause of fires in the city are smoking cigarettes, or smoking anything at that matter. You smoking at home, still a bad idea. You should definitely smoke outside or go outside if you're going to smoke. A lot of people end up falling asleep, or they take medication and makes them drowsy and they'll fall asleep, and either the cigarette will fall or it'll fall on their bed and it causes a big fire. I can't tell you how many fires I've actually been to caused by something as simple as that could have been prevented, right? So that's basically the gist of everything as far as the quick fire safety presentation goes. I'll give it back to Jakari.
Yeah. Well, thank you, William. That was very informative. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yes.
Yes. And I think because I was reading, because we do have a lot of questions that have came in so far. Someone brought up that we missed the slide, Senator Jackson, about what the tenants should do. So I'm going to put it back up, and if you could just read it one more time just to go over it, because I think we missed the slide. So just 1 second. So this was the slide that was missed. So I'm going to have the senator reread this. But you're muted, Senator.
What should tenants be doing? Take pictures of everything in your home, any space you can access, and every item should be photographed for any future claims and the ability to inventory what has been damaged. And if you have renter's insurance, file your claim and alert the insurer about your situation so they can provide the benefits you're entitled to.
Thank you. Because someone said we missed that one. So hopefully that, you guys understood that slide. So we're gonna now hand it over to Abigail Banks with Emergency Management. She's gonna close out the presentations for tonight. Then we will get to the Q&A. So Abigail, thank you for joining us. You can start.
Will you be sharing? Yes, please.
Yeah, 1 second.
While Jakari gets up my slides, I have shared in the chat some of the things that I'll be talking about today. One thing I want to point out to everyone, we did do a webinar with FDNY on lithium ion battery safety. So you can feel free to watch that on your time. We also have my emergency plan, which we talk about creating a plan with your family. I put it in English and Spanish in the chat. We do have it in 13 different languages. I will share that link later. And then our CERT team, or Community Emergency Response Team. So tonight I'm going to be talking about emergency preparedness. So some of the stuff that you're going to be doing before any fire happens or any emergency happens. So we can go to the next slide, please. So what do you do to prepare? The first thing, like I said, create that emergency plan and be sure to practice that plan. So how do you evacuate the home? Similar to what William was saying, writing down important information like the contacts, the name of the contact and the number of the contact, especially if you speak a different language. Maybe the older adult in the household has stayed to take care of the children, but they don't speak English. Their primary language is Spanish. Now that child has to be stuck maybe translating or interpreting for them. Write down simple phrases. My name is, my daughter's number, my son's number is, I have difficulty walking, or whatever it may be in the case for your family. It just helps everyone in that situation to be able to communicate with both first responders and be able to get some kind of help in that emergency situation. As William and the senator were talking about, make an inventory of your items. I always say make a new email. I think we all have Gmail or whatever system you prefer to use. Take those pictures, make it an email just for that reason. Every time you purchase something new, make sure you take a picture of it so that you do have inventory when you are putting a quote, putting in during your renter's insurance to try to get some money back. And of course, copies of your important documents, your lease, your ID, your Medicare, Medicaid, birth certificates, and anything else that might be useful in that situation that can say you are who you say you are. So if you lose the originals in the fire, you can now say, hey, this is me, I live here. And getting the originals will be a little easier to get back if we do have to connect you with the agencies. And it'll also help during registration. When American Red Cross comes, you can say, hey, this is me. I can provide a proof for that. So you can either have physical copies, or you can have, like I said, that email copy you know to bring up apartment email, and everything is in there for you. Similar to what the FDNY spoke about, if you have, make sure you're installing smoke and carbon monoxide alarms where you sleep. And of course, check the batteries at least twice a year. We usually suggest during daylight savings. FDNY always reminds us every year to do so. Extension cords are, of course, only for temporary use, as William suggested. Never use extension cords on large appliances, space heaters, air conditioners, or refrigerators. And place space heaters at least 3 feet away. We want to make sure they don't combust and then cause a fire, which would then not be a fun time for anyone. Of course, we want to make sure we keep our fire escapes clear and consider renter's insurance if you rent an apartment. I know there's some programs out there that explain the different types of renter's insurance. So a quick Google search will be able to help you along those lines. Next slide, please. So tonight, if there's one thing you do, I know emergency preparedness is not the most fun topic to talk about, but hey, quick question. What are we doing in a fire? Who's gonna take the child? Who's gonna help grandma or grandpa down the stairs? Or maybe you have a family member that has a different disability, a learning disability. Do they understand what is going on, or can they focus on you to be able to get out to safety if you don't live in a fireproof building? As I mentioned, our plan comes in all of these different languages, in audio format and American Sign Language as well. Next slide, please. So what to do if there's a fire? Just reiterating a lot of the steps that FDNY talked about. First thing you want to do is get out of the home and or building and call 911 from a safe place. Do not stop for anything. If you prepare what we like to call a go bag within our My Emergency plan, where you have some of that stuff prepared before the emergency, you want to make sure it's near the exit door so that you can grab it as you exit. You don't want to have it in the closet, in the back of the room, so that you're running back and forth in the apartment trying to grab everything. Your safety is the most important. Everything else is replaceable. As William mentioned, you don't want to use the elevator in that fire situation. And you also want to know if you live in a fireproof or non-fireproof building. You can check this with the Department of Buildings to verify whether you do live in one or not. Always remember to feel the doors with the back of your hand before you open them. And if they're hot, try to find another way out. As William mentioned, either your fire escape or window if you need to call for help in that moment.
Abigail, 1 second.
Sure.
William.
Yep.
Yep. We're going to ask those questions live. So
okay. Gotcha.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Abigail. Go ahead.
No worries. So if the fire is in your apartment, we want you to evacuate and close the door. As William mentioned, with fire, it feeds off of the oxygen that we give it. So we want to make sure we're cutting off the oxygen to the fire and containing the fire within that apartment, or trying to contain it within that apartment. It's also important within those notes that you will write for that person that may speak a different language, or even for yourself, to say, hey, the fire is in apartment 4D, for example. There is someone on that floor that you know is elderly. You were not able to help them in that scenario, but now the firefighters are aware, hey, there's an elderly person on the 4th floor that may need our assistance, and they can figure out how they can go about evacuating all of the residents in the building. Next slide, please. So what to do after an emergency? You want to check with FDNY before you re-enter your residence to make sure that it is safe. Do not attempt to reconnect any utilities. And again, you want to conduct that inventory of all the damaged property and items. I know it's probably the first thing you want to do. You want to start cleaning up and throwing away damaged goods, but you want to make sure you inventory everything that was damaged so you can do a comparison. And also for your renter's insurance, you can make sure you can showcase, I had this prior to the fire, and this is what got damaged and how much damage was caused. So as Senator Jackson said, if you're insured, you want to contact your insurance company for detailed instructions on protecting the property, how they require you to conduct the inventory. Are pictures best? Are receipts the best thing? They may have a different procedure. They may have a form that you need to fill out. You want to call ahead of time to make sure that you have all of that information before needing to use the insurance. And if you're uninsured, I know that there are private organizations and even nonprofits that may help and aid for that assistance. If you have a mortgage, you want to also notify your mortgage company of the fire, and they will assist in that portion. And the final slide, please. So what does the city do with us as emergency management? We work very closely with FDNY. As you know, FDNY does the fire protection and they enforce the public safety code. But FDNY will normally, or excuse me, New York City Emergency Management will normally get involved if there are more than 75 residents displaced due to the fire. And we will help coordinate getting city agencies and nonprofit partners out to help find temporary or permanent housing to assist and support with services. I will pause there because I know there may be questions and supposed to end at 8.
All right, thank you, Abigail. Thank you for those tips. Thank you so much. So we're gonna get to the Q&A because we have a few questions that came in. So the first question is, does this information apply to NYCHA tenants? Can anybody answer that?
As far as the alarms go, that like I mentioned before, the free smoke alarms, that's not given to NYCHA residents because NYCHA provides their own alarms and CO alarms.
That person who asked that, if you have, if you could be more specific as to what information. Somebody asked, some anonymous attendee, where do I access my fire report?
There's actually a phone number. I don't know it off the top of my head, that you call and you're able to get the fire report. I would
You
have
can
to
get it through 311. 311 can get you it
once you
too.
have it.
Okay. The next question is from an attendee. Which agency should I contact regarding tenants keeping and charging lithium-ion batteries in the building?
Definitely call 311 or you could call 911, let us know, and we'll come investigate.
Also, they should, concerned tenants should communicate with their owners. There are people bringing lithium batteries in the building. And I know that some owners are putting on lease renewals about lithium batteries and what have you. But I don't know if they can legally force someone to not bring it in the building. But considering the fires that have occurred, I would try to organize a tenants association or communicate, because they tell you that if you're charging, you never charge overnight. You always are awake when you're charging a battery like that. In fact, there are things that are being done at the city level where they can charge outside. And so we need to explore all of that, because based on what I know, and the fire FDNY would tell you, these batteries don't start with a little fire and stay little. It explodes and it's all over the place, you know? So the safety and security of the residents of the building is extremely important. That's number one. Their safety But number two, all of their belongings in their apartment, and the value of the building with the owner of the building. So everyone should care about these very important issues. Everyone should.
Yes. Thank you, Senator. The next question is, hi, this was a great presentation. May I ask if FDNY would help facilitate a fire drill for buildings that would like to hold one?
So the same way this was organized, you could actually set up an appointment for us to come and give a fire presentation or a tabling event in your building itself, whenever it's available. The same way you set it up on fdnysmart.org, the website behind me, you could go and set up an appointment for us to come, and we'll happy to come to your building and have a fire safety presentation for anyone who wants to attend.
Thank you. The next question is, if there's a fire in another apartment, are you supposed to leave your apartment open or closed?
Oh my gosh.
So in a fireproof, oh, that's actually something I forgot to mention. In any type of fire, no matter what, the most important thing is to close the door behind you, right? If you're escaping a fire, you make sure you want to close the door behind you if the fire is in your apartment, right? So if you're in a fireproof building and you're in your apartment and there's a fire elsewhere, you want to make sure that you stay in your apartment and close the door, like I said earlier, and wait for the fire department to get there, right? Because ideally that fire is going to be contained to that area of the building. So by you staying in your apartment, it'll probably be likely be the safer option, right?
Close the door. That's what, loud and clear.
Close the door.
Close the door, and as the fire Daniel, right? No, not Daniel. Mr.
Martinez.
Said, you know, if it's more than 7 stories high, it's fireproof or fire resistant.
Yeah.
So you know, you just need to be aware of that, and make sure you close the door and stay awake in order to, you know, wait to see what's happening. And if in fact, if they sense a little smoke, you wet some towels and put it under the door, and so, and then wait for word about what's happening.
Yeah, that's in a fireproof. So make sure you close the door behind you. It prevents the fire and the smoke from extending to the rest of the building and the upper floors if you live on a lower floor. And it also gives us more time to respond and put out the fire and do our job. So every second counts as a firefighter. So by you closing the door, it just gives us that much more time to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. The next question says, what about the extension cord / plug? The plug that plugs right into the wall and has sockets or USB ports. Can you plug more than 2 things into it?
Yeah, that should be fine. I mean, if you want to plug USBs in those, that's what it's made for. Just don't, like I said earlier, if it heats something up or cools something down, that should be connected directly into the wall. If it's an extension cord, like that's just, it's not creating more energy. It's just spreading the amount of energy your home has to those 6 plugs, if that's how many the extension cord has. So definitely be careful. And like I said earlier,
Mr. Also that where, if in fact your the wall outlet has 4 slots, 2 on each side, but they have the ones that you actually are not with an extension cord, but you put it in to the actual socket in order to not be able to expand and overheat that situation.
Right, and that's the same thing. It's basically using the same amount of energy, but extending it to more plugs and more outlets. It's the same thing as an extension cord by using those, if that's the exactly one that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Our next attendee asks, can I get a copy of this recording? This information was very good to share with others. Yes, this webinar will be uploaded on our YouTube, and it will be shared with everybody who joined tonight. So please be on the lookout for that, and we will share the presentation that the senator presented as well. The next question is, Please share info about free smoke detectors. So this person would like to know, I guess, how they can obtain those free smoke detectors, like the process of doing that.
Right, so I put the number up on the chat. It's 1-877 733 2767. It's essentially 1-877 Red Cross with one S.
The next attendee asked, what about tenants who have pets? Can you mention some suggestions on what to do if pets are home alone if a fire starts? Thanks.
If I mean, you would have to coordinate with a neighbor. Maybe you have a neighbor that can come and take and get your pet, give them a spare key. A good idea is to have a camera in the home when you're away, just to make sure your pet is all right. But definitely, that's something that it should be part of your fire escape plan. Have someone, a neighbor or a loved one, if you're away, be in charge of taking care of your pet.
Mhm.
If that answers your question.
Mhm.
That's and that basically he hit it right on the head there. That's what it is. Your neighbors, and or if you have relatives living a block away or something like that, but you have to come up with a safety plan. And the safety, like we have a cat. Uh, so people are going to try to, if they're in their homes, they're going to get their pets. Their pets are members of their family. Um, but you know, so you just come up with a game plan. What's the game plan in order if there is a fire in the building? What about my dog or my cat or stuff like that?
Okay. Just give me a second. I'm just reading through these, everyone. Hold on. Mm, Okay, this question is directed to the Red Cross. When Red Cross comes to the site of a fire, I know they're supposed to give survivors gift cards, but there have been instances when people haven't received it. What is the process when Red Cross is on site?
So, great question. Red Cross assistance is based on the disaster related damage. So, financial assistance, as we said, can be an option or it can be made eligible based on the disaster related needs and damage. So, that's when that assistance, those cards are provided for those families. So, other assistance is available for those who have certain needs but might not need as much support to keep in the immediate.
Okay, thank you, Saban.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Somebody asks, when does FEMA get involved? Does anybody know the answer to that?
FEMA? I don't, I don't know if they're getting involved at all. This is local as far as New York City. So you're talking about FDNY, the Office of Emergency Management, Red Cross as a volunteer part of it. I don't know. I would assume that Red Cross has a contract with the city of New York, or they do it, you know, just voluntarily and what have you. But um, you know, HPD, the Human Resource Administration, and also what is it? DHCR, HCR, the Housing Community Renewal. All of the agencies are involved in one way or the other. And so people just need to know that Red Cross is going to be there if there's a major fire. FDNY has to determine the nature of the fire. HPD, um, HCR. So, and you know, the Office of Emergency Management is always there when there's a big fire.
Right. Thank you. And And then one of our attendees actually answered that. They said FEMA does not get involved in local fires, only if there's an area-wide catastrophe. So that answer. Thank you to Lorraine who said that. Thank you. I'm just trying to see if looking through these to make sure we covered everything because a lot of these are repeats. The question said, Firefighter William, if tenant purchases, is it on your own or will landlord reimburse the tenant? Now you answered this, William, privately. Can you like elaborate on that question?
Yeah, if someone if they're basically supposed to provide the covers for the is that what he's referring to, the covers for the buttons on the stove?
I'm assuming you answered that. I'm not.
Yeah, the tenant, I'm pretty sure that so there, if you buy them and you have them reimburse you, that should be the case. But ideally, is you would let them know and they should provide them for you. But if you talk to them beforehand and say, hey, listen, I'm going to buy these, they should be reimbursing you for those stove knob covers.
Yeah, clearly, they should ask for them first, and ask how long it's going to take to get them, because basically, if you say I have a child or children under 6 years old, and I understand the law is I have to be provided with them, so hopefully they would adhere to the request ASAP, like within.
Yes, hopefully that's the case.
Yes. I think she was affirmed. The person who asked that question, I think she just said the fire extinguishers. So I think she.
Oh no, the fire extinguishers are not. They're only required to put them on every floor. So if you go in your hallway in your building, there should be fire extinguishers, but they're not required to give them to every tenant. That's more on you to buy a fire extinguisher for yourself.
Firefighter Martinez, I go into buildings and I don't see fire extinguishers on every floor. So for example, I live in a 6-story building, elevated.
Right. If it's I guess it's more of a fireproof building.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. They should provide them.
But clearly I knew for years that we need to have one just in case, and go through drills, so you know what to do.
Right.
The next question says, can a senior request stove covers?
Stove covers?
For seniors? And I think the law is for anyone who's children who are 6 years old or below. But if you wanted to get it for a senior, that's a good idea. But you would, these aren't expensive. You could buy them on Amazon or whatever. And if you feel that it would help keeping your home safe, there's seniors in the home, you could definitely purchase those on your own.
Okay. And another question is how to get in contact with the guests. So if you could, every presenter tonight, if you could just give, you don't have to give your personal, maybe your organization or agency's phone number or email, just repeat it one more time, if you could.
I can start off. So depending on where you live at, right, in my opinion, you should know who your city council member is, or your state assembly member, and or your state senator. You should be aware of that. And if you don't know, you can Google that. You can say, who's my state senator? I live at 359 Edgecombe Avenue, or there, and if not, you can request from any elected public official, I'm trying to find out who my representative is. Can you help me out? So if they called my office, I'll give you my office number. We're located at 213th Street and Broadway in Inwood. But my district runs from 155th Street all the way north, all of Washington Heights, Inwood, and Marble Hill. And then 1/3 of my district is in the Northwest Bronx, near University Heights, Kingsbridge Heights, Fordham, a little bit of Riverdale, and Morris Heights, which is the lowest part of the Northwest Bronx that I represent. So I always say it's very, very important that you know who your elected representatives are, and you should, seek their address, their phone number, their email address. But if that woman, for example, if she's a senior and she wants those stove knobs, she should ask. They may give it to her because the most important thing, she's asking for, in my opinion, from a safety point of view. Not like she's going to get them and sell them to somebody else. You know what I mean?
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right. So ask. And if not, then she needs to just find out how much do they cost. And if that's to purchase one at a time, things like that.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.
William, can you give your contact information, please?
If you wanted to, if you go to fdnysmart.org, all the resources are there. If you wanted to set up your own fire safety presentation for your building or your home or your association, everything is there amongst other resources that will help you in as far as fire safety goes and fire prevention.
Thank you.
And can I give you my information? Our office is located at 5030 Broadway. That's near 213th Street. But I'll give you a phone number. It's 212-544-0173. So our phone number is 212-544-0173. But if you live in Harlem, you should say, well, I know that Harlem, Cordell Clear is a New York State Senator from Harlem, okay? So she covers East Harlem, Harlem, and a little bit of Washington Heights. Then goes north, I have it. So I just gave people the two individuals from all the way, and she goes a little bit on the Upper West Side also. So those are two New York State senators that represent, I think, most of the people here, because each one of us represents about 330,000 constituents, whereas a New York State Assembly member represents about 140, 145,000. City Council represents about 160, 165,000. Those are the numbers of the representation.
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.
Saban.
Yeah, so the Red Cross can be reached at 1-877-733-2767.
Thank you. And then Abigail, if you don't mind.
New York City Emergency Management could be reached at an email address. It's readyny@oem.nyc.gov. And if you're interested in a presentation, you can request one and we can walk through that booklet, the My Emergency Plan, to make sure that people are getting down their steps before that emergency happens.
Thank you. Last question. Who covers Central Harlem? I think this is for Robert Jackson.
Yeah, Central Harlem State Senate is Cordell Clear. Her office is in the Harlem State Office Building. But besides that, you have Inez Dickens. She is the state assembly member that represents Central Harlem. Her office is in the Harlem State Office Building. And Yusef Salam, who is the new city council member, he represents that area. And I think his office, I don't know if it's in the Harlem State Office Building yet, because the former city council member had our office, I think, on 135th Street. But so they can look it up, they can Google it, or they can just call and find out. So you have Inez Dickens, the state assembly member, Yusef Salam, who is a city council member, he's relatively new, and Cordell Clear is the state senator, and Adriana Espaillat is the member of Congress.
Thank you. Okay. So I think that's going to be the last question for tonight. One last question for OEM. Do you still have CERT training?
Great question. So yes, we still have CERT training. They are usually either Monday, Wednesdays, or Tuesday, Thursdays. They are hybrid. So some of the classes are remote and some of the classes are in person. So a few of the things that we go over in CERT classes are how to use a fire extinguisher, what to do as far as emergencies are concerned. You can be that sort of additional person helping direct people out to safety. What to do, if there's this staircase is blocked, let's use the other staircase. So we do offer those classes. They are free. They are only in English, and you only have to be 18 years or older. So if you know of any college students that are interested in maybe getting some credits for their to complete their degree, this could be something that they might be interested in.
Thank you, Abigail. Okay, so that's gonna close out tonight's Q&A and tonight's webinar. I want to thank, firstly, the Senator Robert Jackson for being our co-host tonight and doing such an amazing job with explaining all aspects of a building fire and what,
Pleasure.
Thank you. I want to thank William Martinez from FDNY.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Saban McGinley from Red Cross.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And then I want to thank Abigail Banks from Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you for having me.
And we want to thank you and Palante for putting this together, because you're interested in the safety and security and saving lives and property. And that's what we all need to be aware of. So thank you. And